Hello and welcome to Well with Gab. I am so glad you're here. I am Gabrielle, aka Gab, your host. I'm pretty new at this whole podcasting thing, so please bear with me as I get out all of these thoughts and feelings, hopefully in a way that is understandable. If you haven't listened to my introduction podcast, please go give that a listen as well so that you can get to know me and what I'm all about. But to sum it up, I am Gab, a 30-year-old coffee-loving first-time mom currently on a wellness journey, and I love to yap, so I created this podcast to share my thoughts and feelings and my day-to-day experiences. Hello, welcome, and I am so glad that you are here. Today, we are diving into something that does not get talked about enough, the fourth trimester. What, Gab? I thought there were only 3 trimesters. Me too, friend. Me too. Up until this past year, I had no clue that there was a 4th trimester or what it entailed. I first learned about it whenever I was pregnant last year, and then I read up on it as much as I could because for 29 years, I had no clue that there were more than 3 trimesters because I never heard of that term before in my life. But for those of you who don't know what that is, it's those first 3-ish months after you have your baby when your body, your mind, and your entire world are adjusting to this new season of life. Before I got pregnant, I didn't even know the 4th trimester was a thing, but to be fair, I also didn't know a lot about pregnancy besides the general basics. I'm not even sure what I thought. I knew there was more to postpartum recovery than just having a baby and going back to your day-to-day life, but no one really spoke about what it entailed. And you'd think at some point in my life I'd hear a conversation about postpartum in the 4th trimester, but nope, because I was not close enough to any women to experience it secondhand. So this time last year, I was 29 years young, pregnant for the first time, learning all about pregnancy and motherhood for the first time. And I just learned that there was not 3 trimesters, but 4. And I panicked. I had no experience with motherhood, and I was already researching and reading everything I could. And now all of a sudden, there was more that I didn't know and immediately added the 4th trimester to my list of things that I needed to read up on. And in the spring, I lived it. And it was both not that bad and so much more than I thought. So let's get into it. Now, a quick disclaimer, I'm not a doctor or a medical professional. I'm just sharing my own experience and what I've learned along the way. Everyone's postpartum journey is going to look a little different, but my hope is that you'll feel seen, validated, and maybe even laugh a little as we talk about it. So let's get started with what the 4th trimester is. According to the internet, the 4th trimester refers to those first 12 weeks of a baby's life. It's a critical transition period for both the baby and the mother as they adjust to life outside of the womb. And an adjustment it is. So you just spent the last 9-ish months with your baby living inside of you. You were their sole source of nutrition, comfort, and safety. And now they are earthside and you're healing with this gaping womb where a baby was, and you also have this newborn to provide for, no longer in your belly but outside of you, learning how to exist. During this time, your baby is learning how to live in the outside world and experiencing everything for the first time, and so are you if you're a new mom. You're both developing physical and emotional needs. You're experiencing so many changes. Physical, emotional, and philosophical. Not to mention, you're going through a huge hormone drop. It's wild. You're also healing, whether that's from a vaginal delivery or a C-section. This stage looks a little different for everyone, and I'm going to talk about my experience and what I learned during the 4th trimester, but I want you to take this with a grain of salt because my experience probably won't mirror yours, and yours might not even be the same if you've had multiple experiences. Because pregnancy, birth, and postpartum are the most universally unique experiences there is. So let's talk about the body because, wow, does it go through some things. First, there's the weight. Everyone is concerned with the weight. And in the beginning, it feels like it just falls off. And you're like, okay, this isn't so bad. But then it plateaus. And that is completely normal, but it can really mess with your head whenever you expect to bounce back. Spoiler alert, bounce back culture is garbage. Being fully transparent here, I gained 70 pounds during my pregnancy. Pre-pregnancy, I was around 125 pounds and ended my pregnancy at 196 pounds. And that was with still being in the gym 3 days a week up until the middle of my third trimester, whenever I couldn't even walk without wheezing. And it was rough. The ankles were swollen. Everything was swollen, honestly. And my self-conscious was down the drain. Everyone told me, oh, don't worry, because you were so tiny and healthy before, the weight will just fall right off after the baby's born, especially if you decide to breastfeed. That is not always true, because I am 7 months postpartum and I can tell you it did not happen like that. And that is okay. I lost about 10 pounds after delivering my 6-pound, 6-ounce baby boy, and then another 10-ish during my first week postpartum. And I hovered there until I was cleared to go back to the gym at 6 weeks. And I quickly lost another 20 pounds. And that's it. I've been hovering around 150 pounds ever since, and I am okay with that. Do I miss my 125-pound frame and my size 2 pants? Sometimes, yeah. If I'm being a little honest, some days it's really hard to look at my old clothes in my closet and the memories that pop up from the past few years. Sometimes I get really frustrated that some of the weight seemed to fall off super fast and then it stopped, and that's completely normal. And mentally, it can be a little tough. Because we live in a culture obsessed with bouncing back, and whenever the scale stalls or whenever your body doesn't look or feel like yours, it's easy to feel frustrated. But the truth is, and I have to remind myself of this constantly, my body went through something massive, and the bounce back isn't real, but healing is. Another thing that nobody told me about was the contractions. I knew about the contractions during labor. Everyone knows about contractions during labor. But did you know that you still have contractions after you give birth? I didn't. When you're breastfeeding and pumping, you will get the contractions feeling, and it gets worse with each baby you have. So I was told. Every time you nurse or pump during those first few weeks, your uterus is literally shrinking back down. And it's good, it's a part of your body healing, but it can feel just as intense as labor contractions, especially at night whenever you're already exhausted. It honestly scared the crap out of me. I had no clue what was going on, and I thought there was something seriously wrong until the nurses at the hospital explained that this is completely normal and everyone goes through it. And a heads up, they warned me that many women say that the contraction feeling gets worse with each baby. So that's something to look forward to if we decide to have another one. The more you know, I guess. Getting back on track, another thing with the body I want to talk about is body fluids. This is your only warning. We're going to get a little TMI here, and if you're uncomfortable talking about body fluids, maybe skip ahead of this part. The bleeding, the night sweats, and the leaky everything. Postpartum is messy. It's not glamorous, but it's real. It was also the thing that shocked me the most. I always had pretty light periods, so the amount of blood and clots I saw coming out of me those first few days were terrifying. Luckily, this period didn't last for long. I stopped bleeding after about a week and a half. I thought the night sweats would go away after birth. Nope, they got worse. Between that and leaking breast milk, I was like a faucet that would not turn off. We had to change the sheets every morning because there was a me-sized blob of fluid on my side of the bed. It's also a lot to manage at once, but it made me realize just how much my body was working overtime to reset itself. And let's not forget the famous first poop. Everyone warns you that it's the most terrifying thing ever, and honestly, I was so nervous for it. I had tour, I had stitches, I requested stool softener from my nurse and everything. I thought I was being a huge scaredy cat, but looking back, my feelings were valid. My body just went through a huge deal, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't have a little bit of PTSD from that. But you know what? It wasn't nearly as bad as I imagined. It was definitely awkward, but it was survivable. I barely even felt it, and I was so proud of myself, so yay me. If you skipped the body fluids part, welcome back. Next up, we are talking about the physical recovery. Because healing is its own journey, and if you had a tear, stitches, or even soreness, those first couple of weeks can be rough. Simple things like standing up, rolling over in bed, getting out of bed, or even just walking around can feel like a major milestone. Ice packs and sit baths were my best friends. And some people make their own padsicles. I preferred the ones from the hospital because I just had to crack them like a glow stick to activate the cooling agent, and I was good to go, so it was one less step in my new routine. And a little well-known hack, the hospital will give you extra supplies if you just ask. I requested a ton of ice packs, and something that I never heard of was sitz baths. Turns out it's just Epsom salts and warm water, And as a bath-loving girly, I was well familiar with this. The only difference is that the Epsom salts need to be fragrance-free because you're healing down there, so you don't want a whole bunch of fragrance and extra chemicals around an open wound. These were a game changer for healing and also for the shrinkage of the hemorrhoids. Yes, those are a thing. No, we are not ashamed that we are admitting that. And then there's the disconnect with your body. You look in the mirror and you don't fully recognize yourself. Your body just doesn't feel like yours for a while. And that can be really hard to sit with. I remember being 4 weeks postpartum, sitting in my closet and sobbing because nothing fit my body right anymore. And it wasn't just seeing the changes that got to me. I still can't explain it, but I felt different too. Like my body no longer belonged to me and the person I saw in the mirror was a stranger. It didn't help that I had just dyed my hair dark mid-pregnancy after being blonde for my entire 20s, and I was still much heavier than my pre-pregnancy self. We spoke about that earlier, and that is okay. These feelings gradually faded, but I wanted to let you know that if you're listening to this and this resonates with you, I do understand, and talking to someone, in my case it was my husband, really helped me figure out these feelings and start to find my way back to myself. Speaking of my husband, there is intimacy. We always focus on that when can you after being cleared by your doctor. It's usually 6 weeks, by the way, but nobody talks about how different it feels, both physically and emotionally. There's pressure to get back to normal, but honestly, normal changes. Stitches can put a damper on your plans, and the first time feels like the first time, if you know what I mean. But intimacy isn't just physical, there's also the emotional side of things. Whenever we're first-time parents, we didn't realize how hard it could be to get a few minutes of alone time. I hear it so often, couples end up in the roommate phase because they just lost that intimacy with each other after having a newborn. So you need to, while prioritizing yourself and your healing, also prioritize your relationship with your partner. Prioritize talking with them about y'all's day and eating dinner together if you can, or just spending time together. Hold each other's hand and just connect with each other for a moment. I know it can be so hard whenever you have a newborn and the days kind of blur together, but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, honestly. I just went on a tangent. So let's talk about fourth trimester emotions, because the fourth trimester is not just a physical whiplash, it's also an emotional whiplash. Remember earlier whenever I talked about the hormone drop? It is huge. You have a giant hormone drop as soon as you give birth. I'm actually going to look it up right now. After giving birth, your hormone levels drop sharply by about 90% within 24 hours, and that leads to mood swings and fatigue. And so you are not feeling like yourself. You were already not feeling like yourself during pregnancy, and now you have a completely different set of emotions that you're feeling, and it is complete whiplash. I know I said it was whiplash like 72 times, but I'm going to say it again. It is emotional whiplash. And one thing that shocked me the most with my emotions was the postpartum rage. We always hear about the baby blues, the postpartum depression, the anxiety, but I never heard anyone speak about the anger. And that is real too. The frustration that would boil over at the littlest things, like the dishes in the sink, or the baby crying after you just fed them, or even your partner breathing too loud. And it's jarring because you don't expect to feel this way. And the rage combined with the need to protect my newborn from the world, I was a sharp fuse ready to fight everyone. And experiencing this does not make you a bad mom. It did not make me a bad mom. You gotta remember, it is just the hormones, the exhaustion, and the pressure cooker of new motherhood. And then there are the nighttime scaries. A term I heard in passing, but I never thought much of. But during the day, you're tired, you're distracted, and then at night, whenever it's dark and quiet, your mind races. Your husband's mind races. What if the baby stops breathing? What if I fall asleep and something happens? Those intrusive thoughts can feel so heavy, and the silence of the night makes them even louder. For me and my husband, that's when the anxiety hit the hardest. The nights were really heavy. Eventually, as experience and routine set in, we were able to let go of some of that anxiety, and something that really helped us was sleeping in shifts those first few weeks. Later, we switched to where one of us slept in the room with R and one of us slept in our bedroom, and we switched every 2 nights, and that was so that one of us was there in the nursery if R needed us, and one of us could get a bit more rest. And I'm not saying that you have to do this. I know that this does not work out for everyone. This is kind of a weird dynamic that we did. And so there are other methods that you could try that'll work for you. Back to the mood swings. 1 minute you're laughing at something your newborn did, and the next minute you're sobbing because you realize that your newborn is growing up. And I thought the weird hormones were another thing that ended with pregnancy, but nope. Apparently I am set for life. So I am also a stereotypical Cancer zodiac, if you didn't know, so I am emotional to a fault. It is not looking good for me. But the hormones are wild, and sometimes you don't even know why you're crying. It just spills out, and that is normal too. But here's the wildest feeling of all, time. Everyone says that time starts to fly whenever you become a parent, and I didn't understand it. It wasn't clocking to me. The days felt so long, but somehow the weeks fly by. You blink, and all of a sudden, your baby's not a newborn anymore. And it's a strange mix of exhaustion and nostalgia all at once. There are parts of me that said, I can't wait until R can be put down. He can play while I write something down. Or I can't wait for R to sit up and we can just use a jogging stroller. And then he hits a milestone, and I'm sobbing because he's growing up too darn fast, and I want to savor this forever. And right now he's crawling, and he's trying to stand. And I am just not ready for him to start walking. I remember I couldn't wait for him to walk and for me to take him to the library and to the park and all of those things. And now I'm like, where did my newborn go? Why are you trying to walk? Slow down, sir. Please just slow down. Before we wrap up completely, I also want to mention postpartum depression and anxiety. Sometimes the emotions, the exhaustions, and the hormonal shifts can feel heavier than just normal stress and tiredness. Although I did not experience this, I did have friends who did, and if you find yourself feeling consistently tired, sad, anxious, disconnected from your baby, it is not a failure, and you are not a failure. It is a signal that you might need a little extra support. So talking to your doctor, your therapist, a trusted loved one is a sign of strength, not weakness, and getting help is such an important part of healing, and you deserve the support just as much as your baby does. So here's the truth. The fourth trimester is raw, it's messy, it's overwhelming, but it's also so beautiful in ways that you don't notice until you're looking back. It's a season where you're healing, you're learning, and you're bonding with this tiny human all at the same time. And that's a lot. It's like running a marathon, studying for finals, and moving into a new house all rolled into one while you're sleep deprived and running on fumes. So if you've ever wondered why you're feeling so stretched thin, that's why. It's not because you're weak or because you're doing something wrong. It's not because you're not bouncing back fast enough. It is because this season asks so much of you. So here's what I want you to remember. Healing isn't linear. Motherhood isn't linear. Some days you're going to feel like Superwoman, and you'll shower, you'll make a meal, maybe even leave the house, and you'll think, wow, I've got this. And other days you will still be in the same clothes at 4 p.m., your body feels sore again, and the tears come out of nowhere. And both of these days are normal. Both belong in the story of your fourth trimester. I also want to say this, you are not alone. Even though postpartum can feel isolating, like you're the only one going through these weird body changes or these heavy emotions, you are part of a much bigger story. Every mom has her version of her fourth trimester, and while the details look different, the feelings connect us. You are not broken, you are not failing, you are becoming. So if you're listening to this and you're in the thick of it right now, I just want you to take a deep breath and know you are doing enough. Your baby doesn't need a perfect mom, they need you. And if you're past this stage, maybe months or years down the road, I hope this brings back some good memories and reminds you how strong you really are. Because sometimes we forget what we've walked through and what we've survived. I would love to hear your fourth trimester truths too. You can send me a DM on Instagram at the Well with Gab podcast, or even share your story with me directly. Maybe I'll include a few listener stories in future episodes, because the more we talk about the season openly, the less alone new moms will feel. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Share this with a friend who's expecting or who's in the trenches of postpartum right now. This might be exactly what they need to hear. And remember this, the fourth trimester is just one chapter. It's hard, it's messy, but it doesn't last forever, and you are so much stronger than you think. You are doing better than you believe, and you are the exact mom your baby needs. If you've been enjoying Well with Gab and want to help keep this show ad-free, you can support me by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wellwithgab. The link is also in the show notes if that's easier. Every little bit helps me keep creating meaningful, authentic content for you. Thank you so much for listening and being a part of this journey. Until next time, stay well.